When we think about nationalism, we think about borders. But history tells us something different. History tells us that it is beyond borders, it is beyond map. It is shaped by something called as the language. Because long before maps and borders shape minds of people, languages shapes the mind of people. And that's why linguistic nationalism is something that is very much talked about, very much common, and has existed even centuries back and is present even today. And that's why today's topic is linguistic nationalism. And welcome to Shankar IAS Academy's State of Affairs. Let me take you back to France. It's about the 1700s. The French Revolution is in full force, but there was one important thing, the language. You see that about 1 out of 6 people did not know French. Interesting, right? Because there were a lot of dialects, there were a lot of new languages, and each person had an own dialect, had a own language, and there were a lot of clusters, and it was very, very fragmented. But out of the 1 in 6 people, they all wanted a unified language. But then, when we talk about one unit wanting a unified language, there is going to be another unit which is resisting it. And why did French become the unified language? Because French at that point in time was the language of the elite. It was the language of the bourgeois. It was the language of the people who were in the top of the hierarchy. And the Jacobin Club played a major role. The Jacobin Club told that, you know what? French is going to be the national language from this day because we need unity. Unity in thought, unity in communication, and unity in how all of us perceive this nation. But then, when protests erupted because they didn't want French as the national language, it was suppressed at one point in time, and French became the national language. Language became a revolutionary weapon, and that's why we see that nations are built based on language, and France is one example. Now let's move to another example, Germany. Germany, before it became a political nation, it was a linguistic nation at first. How did this happen? Because Martin Luther translated the Bible. He translated the Bible into German. Now people could access it easier. People formed an identity out of the German. People began to unite. They started to talk in German. And that's how it became a linguistic nation. Now laws, now identities, everything was related to German. And that's how this became a linguistic nation. The same case in Italy. So now we have spoken a lot about Italy, about Germany, about France. But what happened in India? All these nations chose the easier path. They thought that having one language would create unity. But in case of India, India is a cultural mosaic. We have fragmented languages and everyone is proud of their culture. Now what do? It is a civilizational anomaly. This is where India chose the harder path. 22 scheduled languages, multiple dialects, multiple languages, multiple people coming in and writing multiple different things, and everyone should be accommodated. Now this is where India thought that we have to choose the harder path despite this fragmentation, and that is where they gave importance to linguistics. If we became unity in diversity. And that's why it is very, very different from the earlier nations which shows that one nation, one language. Now, there's also a question. Is India moving to that one particular one language, one nation policy, or are we still following the linguistic trade that we had earlier? And how did this linguistic nation start? That's when, let me take you back to 1953. This person here is Poti Sriraman. He wanted a separate state for the Telugu speaking people, a state called Andhra Pradesh. He fasted to death, and because he fasted to death, we gave on behalf of him the Andhra Pradesh. But now the other states also wanted their own linguistic secularism. This is where Tamil Nadu had Tamil, Karnataka had Kannada, Kerala had Malayalam, and every single state was changed based and reorganized based on the linguistic dialect of that particular region. All thanks to Potti Sriramulu, this happened. Then what happened? Linguistic states was a democratic solution. It was not a war. It was not regression. It was a democratic solution. And then what happened? Language became identity. Language became dignity, and language became political representation. Now, with this language, a lot of things kept happening, but then there was a pressure wall that we all should be grateful for. A living, breathing document, the Constitution. Thanks to it, we have not had any kind of civil war based on language up until now. We see Article 343 having union language, we have Article 345 for the states, and we have Article 29 and 30 for the minority languages. All of these are there. But is language really a solution? Is language really giving the Article 14 an importance, stating that we are all equal and we have equity? We would say no. We should say no. Because nobody talks about the linguistic gap, the justice gap. What is this justice gap? Imagine you are standing on the trial of your life in a dock. You are so scared about what is going to happen. But at that particular point, you realize that you don't understand one single word that is spoken about you in the courtroom. Why does this happen? Because about 90% of the proceedings in the courtrooms happen either in English or in Hindi. And about 90% of the people do not understand that particular language. Even if you are on a trial for your life, you will not understand it unless you know that language. This is the justice gap. And we have various reports that substantiate this particular thing. Even our president, Draupadi Murmu, she has stated that justice should be accessible to all. But we have a living, breathing document and we have justice which has to be accessible to all. Is it equal? Does it strike a balance? Is where the problem comes into accord. Now, we also talk about a lot of cases and impositions. We as people want to break away from the imposition. But the Supreme Court, the 2023 case, wherein if I'm a student who is in my second grade or third grade, am I choosing a language which makes me happy, or are my parents choosing that language for them? Is one case which happened. The second case is when we prepare for a lot of languages, when we prepare for a lot of exams, and even if we know a lot of languages, we are bound to stick to Hindi and English because that is where the language politics comes in. Even if you are strong in your regional dialect, it makes no sense because you will not be able to use that in the preliminary level of your exam. Take the case of NEET. Take the case of any competitive exam. This is how the world works. And that's why it's very, very important for us to understand how regionalism shapes the gender pay parity and how regionalism shapes you getting into a desired service, a desired job, and having the lifestyle of your own. And even when all these happen in today's day, we also have politics playing a major role. Why? Because language is a vote mobilizational tool. It is an electoral currency. Let's say that you don't like somebody and you're in a party which has the head of that somebody person. Now you can just switch parties. But imagine that there is a lot of ideological difference, but you're able to connect with that person because you understand what he's saying. If you're in a playground and the rules are explained to you and you don't understand what the rules are, you will lose the game even before you get into the game because you do not understand. That's why in politics, your language relates more than the ideology. And that's why it is an electoral currency. And this is a vote mobilizational tool. We see a lot of protests. We'll see the Marathi identity movements. We see the anti-Hindi agitation movement in Tamil Nadu. And we see a lot of movements that happen day to day. Every day we see these movements happening. And every day we see that the political angle keeps changing. Mrs. Rajni Kotari, she is a political activist who stated a lot about how vote mobilizational tool and politics are intertwined and how linguistics also plays a role. Now, with that, we have come to an age where AI dominates everything. Today, we see a lot of Malayalam satires, we see a lot of Tamil content creators that happen, and we see Hindi gyans that happen, and we see a lot of us doing reels, we see social media, doom scrolling. There are a lot of terms that come to a point, we even say that there is a brain fog because I'm not able to take the amount of information. So languages are present, but are languages equal is the question. Today, if you see that the world keeps changing with languages and with AI, but we are not able to mobilize it to our fullest potential, because if it is not in Hindi or English, we are not in a position to understand, because a lot of people do not choose regional languages. And that is why we come to a point where we have the digital colonialism. What is this digital colonialism and what am I talking about? You take ChatGPT, you take Google, you take Alexa, you take any large language model, and in that particular language model, you see that it is trained based on the Western influence, based on the Western media, and the regional languages are ignored. So people who know Western language models, people who know Western languages, people who know the common language get a strong AI model, and people who know regional languages get a weak AI model. And is this equality? We go to a point where there is digital colonialism. We talk about a place where people are digitally in a point where they do not want to move out of it. I would like to quote a case which was happening in Uttar Pradesh. Do you know that in India there is a particular temple for the goddess of English, the Angresi Devi? Now this happened because English was a language of the elite, and even our Dr. Ambedkar, he mentioned that English being the language of the elite now can change, because that's the only language which does not have a change in dialect, and it's the only language that can be caste neutral. But now digitally we are colonized. Even though we think that English is going to take us forward, the danger is that jobs and every single educational institution that you think about has a dominance of these Western models. And with AI taking over the world, will we be in a place where we can grasp it faster and train our regional models? That's when you enter Project Bashni. Project Bashni is a project by the Indian government, which is an AI-led initiative. It has brought in a lot of regional dialects, the Maithili language, the Bhojpuri language, the Bihari language, and it is trying to, take in all the aspects of that particular minority language and train this language model so that it can be accessible to everybody. So in today's day, just like oil equals to currency, language is the new pipeline and AI models is the outcome. So a language model which does not have your regional dialect directly violates your Article 14. You do not have the right to equality. And in an age where economics contributes a lot, you see that the North, when you think about the North, it has a lot of young workforce. Now take the case of Kerala, Tamil Nadu and the South. We have an aging population. Now we are having an economic marriage wherein people from the North come here and they serve and they get paid money, but it's a linguistic diverse. Why? Related to the three language policy. Let me tell you, if you are in the North and you ask people that I want to particularly learn this particular language, it would be Sanskrit. There would be a lesser amount of people who choose Tamil or in Tamil or Malayalam or Kannada in the north because they think that it would not fetch them any money. When you come to the south and you want to learn a particular language, you go against Hindi because you think that is imposed on you. Now, economics and this play a major role when there are a lot of migrants that come in every day, and you understand that English has become a class divide. English has formed a hierarchy. You understand that about 34% of the people who know English earn better than the person who does not know English. Isn't this a violation of right to equality? Isn't this a violation of the fact that you have to earn the same amount, but just because you do not know a language, even though you know the skill, even though you worked hard, even though you had to have pay parity, you did not have it. And now we talk about pay parity. Where is this linguistic parity? Is the question. So linguistic nationalism should not forget its economic angle, because that's something that is very, very important to remember. And the three language policy should bridge a gap and bridge the pedagogical gaps that happen, because every state in the country is not going to have a teacher that understands every language is going to be taught. So there are a lot of gaps, there are a lot of linguistic differences, but in the end, we saw that history shaped languages, languages shaped politics, and politics shaped electoral currencies, and electoral currencies shaped judgments. And with judgments, we understand that even today in India, we have secularism. And that's why we have to talk about secularism, which is quoted in a lot of cases. Not the religional secularism I'm talking about, the linguistic secularism. Because in a fabric and a country like India, linguistic nationalism is not the solution. It is linguistic secularism. Thank you.